20 years, 2 months, and 27 days before being stabbed while acting on the set of a vampire movie, Terrence, 23, and Melanie, 22, had been in LA for about 3 months when Terrence got a phone call asking him to come in for his first audition. His first step toward being a legitimate Hollywood actor. Hi, I'm Neil A. Yeager, and today I'm reading from my novel, Non-Hollywood. If you're liking this audiobook, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, I would love it if you would go grab a hard copy or an ebook copy from Amazon. This is Chapter 17, Cattle Call Audition. The two had celebrated by taking another drive out to the beach. Relaxing in the sun, Melanie was definitely showing now. Though she was not happy about the whole maternity clothes phase of her life, she was thrilled to see the physical evidence that the baby was indeed on the way. And she was happy that her young husband was finally getting an audition out of those expensive photos. "Babe," she said to Terrence, who was half asleep beside her on the beach blanket, his hat pulled down over his eyes, "we really need to talk about this trip." He didn't move, and didn't remove the hat from over his eyes. "Mel, I'm enjoying the sunshine. I'm enjoying the news of the audition. I know, I am too, but we've got to discuss this." "Okay," Melanie began. "Unless something changes, we're going to be broke right about the time the baby comes. We can't afford to have the baby here. That's all there is to it." "I know, but now I'm still on my parents' insurance. Going back home to have the baby just makes sense." Home. This is home. LA is home. You know what I mean. And you know we need my parents' insurance. We just do. Terrence sighed. "I can't go back there yet. It's been like 3 months and nothing's happened yet. I can't go back." "It's not like we're giving up. Nobody's saying to give up. We can come back here once the baby's born and the doctor feels the baby can travel. We're not giving up. I'm 100% supportive. Nobody is giving up." "I can't do it, Mel. I can't." "Well, it's either that or you're going to have to go get a job and some insurance because there isn't anybody who's going to hire a pregnant chick." "Fine, that's what I'll do." Melanie shook her head, sighed, and put on her headphones. Well, this was it. Terrence's first Hollywood audition. Yes! It took him a while to find a parking spot in the area, and once he had found a parking spot, he simply sat in the car for a moment. He wanted to savor this. This was the beginning. He was ready. He would nail this, he would get this, and there would be no looking back. Melanie had bought him a new shirt for the audition. The role was for a cocky college student, so they had spent a few hours trying to find the shirt which would perfectly portray that character. With a smile into his rearview mirror, Terrence got out of the car and walked into the building where the auditions were being held. The first thing that he noticed upon entering was that the lobby was jam-packed. The place seemed to be wall-to-wall with guys in the 18 to 25 range, just tons of them. The room was loud with conversation. At the far end of the room, he could see a large hand-lettered poster board which proclaimed "Sign In." He made his way through the crowd to the end of the room and caught the attention of the frazzled-looking young woman who was sitting there. Excuse me," he said, raising his voice to a near shout in order to be heard over the noise in the room. "I've got a 2 o'clock appointment." To Terrence's right, a young man gave a loud, obviously sarcastic laugh and said, "You have a 2 o'clock! Imagine that!" The young woman at the desk just pointed at the sheet on the desk. She told Terrence to sign it and wait until his name was called. The laughing man called out above the din of the room, "Yeah, maybe they'll call you in a few hours. Maybe." Terrence was puzzled. "What do you mean?" he asked. "You've got a 2 o'clock? I've got a 2 o'clock? He's got a 2 o'clock? Every damn person in this room's got a 2 o'clock. I don't understand." "Cattle call, my friend. I can't believe they still do this crap, but here we are." Terrence had read about cattle calls in one of his acting books. Basically, whoever was casting had simply brought in a few hundred people to audition and would let them sit around in the lobby until they got around to calling them in the room. "Too damned rude," shouted the laughing man again. "I'll tell you, a production like this is not one we want to work on. They've got zero respect for actors. You think they'll respect whoever they end up picking out of this mess? This is a complete load of BS." "Then why don't you leave?" said another nearby young man who was dressed in a purple sweater. "Give the rest of us a better chance." "Why don't we all leave?" replied the laughing man. "That's what should happen here. These people have no respect for us. Cattle calls are insulting, they're humiliating, and we should just walk out of here and show them what we think." "Then do it," said the guy in the purple sweater. "Yes, please," chimed in another young man. "You guys don't get what I'm saying. I'm saying that we should all do it. Every damn one of us should walk out of here. Let them know how we feel about it." Terrence shrugged his shoulders and said, "Well, I'll wait. I want to do the audition, and if this is how it is, then this is how it is." "Then you're a damned fool, and you're contributing to a pattern of behavior that is wrong and insulting." "Then why don't you just leave?" repeated the guy in the purple sweater. "Maybe I will. Please do so." For a moment, Terrence was pretty sure that he was going to see a fight. Then the laughing man simply turned and walked away. However, he did not, Terrence noticed, leave the building. And in fact, an hour and 45 minutes later, Terrence saw this young man entering the audition room after his name had been called. Terrence had ended up waiting close to 3 hours before his name was called, and there were plenty of actors who had signed in after him, so who knows how long this is going to go on. The 3 hours in the lobby had given him ample time to memorize the few lines that he was to read. He walked confidently into the room and saw a few people at the back of the room chatting and eating some Chinese takeout. There were 2 chairs at the front of the room, and in one was sitting a woman who looked, well, she looked like someone who had been sitting and reading actors for 3 straight hours. She looked tired. The woman asked Terrence to sit down and to start the read whenever he felt ready. Terrence looked back at the folks at the back of the room. They looked up at him, but continued to eat their lunch and chat. Terrence read the line. The woman read the other lines with him, and it was all quickly over with. The woman said, "Thank you," and Terrence stood up and left the room. As he walked back out into the lobby, Terrence noticed that it was just as full of young men as it had been when he had first arrived. His first Hollywood audition was done.